Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, what's up, Bisa? How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. Congrats.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You couldn't wait to get back out in the good quality air, huh?
I couldn't wait. No. Well,
It's understandable.
my kids are at home and my husband's home today. It's my son's birthday, so they're being too loud in the house. That's why I came outside.
As they should.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Cheryl. I can't hear you.
I have laryngitis, so I'm staying on mute.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, Robin.
Hi.
Hello.
Lisa, nice to see you.
I know, I'm sorry I've missed the last couple of meetings, but glad to be back.
Happy you're back.
I think we have, hey Dante, how are you? I think we have a quorum. One, two. Are we good, Monica?
Yes, yeah, we have a quorum now.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I think we start the subcommittee meeting for the diversion subcommittee meeting. We have welcome and introductions first. My name is Bisa. I am the chair of the diversion subcommittee and co-chair.
Hi, I'm Robin Lepetsky, Public Defender for Contra Costa County, co-chair of the committee, or vice chair, I think is really the appropriate term, but hey, whatever. Melvin, you go.
Afternoon, Melvin Russell, Assistant Chief with Probation. And I'll kick it over to Ed. You're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. Director of Field Services, Probation. Kick it over to Mr. Blue.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dante Blue with the Office of Reentry and Justice. Since he's agreeing a little, Mr. James.
Chris James, site manager with the W. Haywood Burns Institute. And that is all I'm going to say about it this time because I see familiar faces. I just want to point out that Mr. Blue is wearing blue again. And I think that blue is in the family crest. DA Becton.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just joined, so were we supposed to say something special about Dante's blue? Or...
Just welcomes an intro.
Hi, Dinah Becton, District Attorney. Glad to be here, and I'm tagging Dante.
It's okay. I'm gonna tag Cheryl. I'm still Dante. So, and I'll tag Cheryl.
Cheryl, sorry, I'm recovering from bronchitis, so I still have laryngitis. I I'm tagging Miss Stephanie.
Carol, this can't happen.
I
How
know.
did you lose your voice? I shouldn't ask how you lost your voice. I know how you lost your voice.
It's the smoke.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know my asthma has been acting up too. Hey everybody, Stephanie with Rise and our job. And I also have to leave a little early today. I need to be off by 4. And who hasn't gone already? Just raise your hand. Ronell?
Yeah, Ronell, Health Right 360. I'm actually not on this committee, but I was assigned to a different one that had already kind of passed. So I was just dropping in to see if to listen in and just be participate.
Yeah, I'm Monica Carlisle with the Office of Reentry and Justice. And I see we also have someone on the phone with us today. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is John Ebrahimi. I'm a probation director with the institution.
All right, I think that's everybody. Welcome, everyone. We have public comment, if there's any public comment. Hearing none, we'll move to the next agenda item. Approve the record of actions from the August 20th subcommittee meeting, and I was not at that meeting. So I will ask Vice Chair Lipinski, Robin, to this one.
Yep, I will move for approval of the record of actions and thank Monica for extending the notes. Much appreciated. I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Yeah, and I'll do the roll call. Lisa French. Dinah Beckton. We can come back to Dinah. Robin Lepetsky.
Yes.
Stephanie Medley.
Yes.
Melvin Russell.
Yes.
Cheryl Sedus. All right, motion carries.
All right, great. And I think it's funny that Dinah was also outside in her backyard because we live a couple streets away from each other. So obviously we have some nice weather up here.
Hey, Beckton, could we get a vote for you on the record of action? I don't think we were able to hear you at that time. Were you voting yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, D.A. Beckton.
All right, the next item is approve the recording and future subcommittee meetings and postings, and posting the recordings on the county's website. So I don't know if this is something, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I can take that for you, Madam Chair. So during our last discussion, last meeting, we had a discussion about wanting to provide more details and information about each of your meetings and how to have that information available for the public. And so what that really consisted of were 2 things. The first was to see if we could provide a little bit more detail inside of our record of actions, recognizing that they're not verbatim minutes, but also could there be some information provided that could at least give some context around the conversation. And so as Robin alluded to, we did try to provide that for this meeting. The second thing was, as a backup, but also just I think for record keeping, and based on the discussion that had happened at other meetings, there was the question of whether this body wanted to record its meetings and have those recordings posted on some publicly accessible website. So right now, the record, what we did in anticipation of this item, which of course we would stop and destroy it, depending on which way the vote went on this item. But we started recording this meeting, so I would use now to tell anyone, if we continue recording this is kind of your notice that this will be publicly recorded and publicly posted. So if you do not want to have a video of you posted publicly, then please keep your camera off. And what will simply be shown is whatever your icon is. Obviously, if this body doesn't approve the recording, we would stop it immediately and it would not be publicly published. But we do want to provide that notice, and that's a notice that we would give at the beginning of each meeting. The expectation is that we're still working out exactly where we're going to post it for the long term, but at least for now, what we've been able to do is provide a link on the Agenda Center on the county's website where this is listed. We'll have a link to another web page where they can download the video if this body approves. So that's what we would do for now, and I would give it back to you, Madam Chair.
All right, so I guess we can have a discussion about this item. I guess more specifically, if somebody objects, then maybe we need to have a discussion. But if nobody objects, then I think we can just, we'll entertain a motion to approve. Any objections?
I don't have an objection, but I have a question. And that is whether the chat conversation also is preserved in some way.
Great question. I mean, I think, so this is something that we were, so the short answer is yes, right? In terms of when you record, you turn the chat recording on. The struggle on our end has been really more of a systems limitation. And what I mean is where we're posting them on Agenda site, or excuse me, on Agenda Center, right? You kind of can put like one thing there. And so that one link right now links back to the Zoom website, which has both listed there. So if in the future we actually are, want to get things off the Zoom website and have them somewhere else, but we actually have control to preserve them, but we still be kind of stuck in that one link place. So for now we will be keeping them. It'll just be about how we're going to be able to publish them going forward.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the recording? Approve the recording of future subcommittee meetings and posting those recordings on the county's website.
I have one more question and then I'll make the motion. And that is whether are the other subcommittees and the oversight body also going to be recorded, or have those discussions not been had?
Yeah, so yes and no. Two of the four, because there's 3 subs in the main racial justice oversight body, 2 of the 4 have had the discussion and will be recording. That is, or depending on how this comes out, it is this body and then also the community engagement and funding who has agreed to record their meetings. There hasn't been a discussion about it at the data committee, and we're expected to agendize a discussion about it at the next racial justice oversight full body meeting.
Thank you, Dante. I'll move to approve the recording of the meeting.
For a second. Somebody want to second that?
I'll second this one as well.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes, and I'll do the roll call. Lisa French.
Yes.
Dinah Beckton.
Yes.
Robin Lopetsky.
Yes.
We might have lost Monica, so let me finish off the roll call. Are you back, Monica? Doesn't look like it.
Stephanie Medley.
Yes.
Melvin Russell.
Yes.
Cheryl Sadas. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we're on a roll. Next agenda item is to approve the subcommittee's definition of diversion. And so I'm assuming that this was probably discussed at last month's meeting that I also missed, but luckily it's attached. And so has everybody had a chance to review the, let's see, the definition that I guess you guys came up with, or I don't know if you guys talked about it at the last agenda meeting.
Yeah, so if you would like, Madam Chair, I can give a little background.
Sure, thank you.
Right. So there was a discussion at the last meeting. There wasn't a definition to work through, but what ended up happening is we did use the chat function for a couple of members to offer suggestions. And largely what we really went through were concepts or ideas that we would like to have embodied in the definition. And so, we took notes on those and also captured the content of the conversation from the chat box. And what the committee asked was for the ORJ to meet with Burns outside to come up with some recommended language. And so we did do that, and that's what you have here in your packet. Since then, your vice chair has also come up with some additional ideas that she'd like to share with the group for consideration as you kind of work through to adopt, this definition and exactly, some of the principles embodied in the idea of diversion. So I don't know, Christopher, was there anything else you wanted to provide in terms of that process or the information?
I think that covers it, and we can leave it to the vice chair to talk us through her additional thoughts.
All right. Madam Chair, would you like us to kind of? I think what we were thinking was that we could do a share screen, and that would allow Robin to kind of walk us through what she's provided. Would you like to move to that now? Monica, do you have that? Can you share that?
Yes, I have it. Let me share that.
Okay.
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
All right. Well, then I would pass it over to you, Robin, to kind of walk us through your document.
Sure. So in reviewing the definition that you all came up with for us, I felt like it was trying to pack too much into just one sentence or two sentences, and that there were a lot of concepts that we had discussed previously in our meetings that we wanted to highlight when we think about diversion. And so when I started trying to think about this for myself, I decided I couldn't conceptualize it without some sub-points. And so what I did is I just drafted what I think is a kind of an overriding definition, and then underneath it are some principles that I think we would want to make sure get included in whatever recommendations we end up making. So I just throw this out there as another way to look at how we might want to come up with a definition.
All right, thank you, Robin. This is comprehensive, and I think it has captured a lot of the things that we've talked about previously when we talk about diversion. Is there any discussion points, some questions, comments? Nothing? Everybody loves it?
I mean, I was still reading, so.
I imagine that, it's difficult to do these kind of wordsmithing things in a group setting when we haven't seen the things ahead of time. So I apologize for that, but I think this is just how we have to do it. So I don't know, Madam Chair, how you want to take a few minutes to let people just kind of read and digest.
Yeah, we'll let
okay.
everybody digest it?
So I think, what I'm thinking is kind of two different things. I think that we need kind of just one statement, which is like a paragraph that's stating what diversion is. And then I think that like the bullet points that you have, Robin, are good. But even thinking about like initially, if you think about like an elevator pitch, thinking about it that way, what are some of the things that you just need to get out right away? And that would be something short and kind of compact. And then I think there's opportunity, like wherever this lives, if we're creating some type of document where we go on to explain, and these are the details of what diversion means.
Now, is that first paragraph though what you intended that to be, Robin?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
Yes, I was trying to capture, right, the overall concept, and then these things below are probably better as bullet points.
So Stephanie, does that first paragraph capture what you think it should capture? Or I mean, even if we look back to the definition provided in our packet, is that something more that you're looking for in terms of a statement?
I don't know yet. I'm still trying to digest.
Oh, sorry.
But it would be good to hear from other folks what they think as well.
Anyone else? Or are we still digesting?
Yeah, I'll chime in there. I was going to say that also sometimes diversion programs can be confusing too, because in here it does state avoiding conviction or incarceration by participating in supportive services, or are we talking about completing supportive services? Because sometimes people participate, if they don't finish, something like that needs to be clear that the diversion program may not, provide avoidance if the participation doesn't turn into a completion.
Thank you. I think that's an important distinction too.
So maybe it could be worded by completing a
Correct. Something in there, something, just revise that a little bit to reflect completion, because our population, sometimes needs clarification.
And then in that second paragraph, if we could just change it from persons in the juvenile criminal court system to juvenile delinquency court system.
And the distinction there, Melvin, can you talk about why that distinction?
I think we just, when for probation, we just view juvenile as delinquent, is more of a delinquency and not necessarily criminal. But if the public defender and the DA are good with it being juvenile criminal court system, then we would defer and be fine with the language.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I also think, to Melvin's point, it's almost a labeling.
Of getting away from criminal.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering what the thinking was. Not that I'm opposed.
Oh, I understand. I get those points and I agree. I don't like the term delinquent either. I'm wondering if we can just have it the juvenile court system, although the problem with that is that also includes then dependency. And so yeah.
And so, if I may, Madam Chair, I know that there has been a movement even in other spaces, just even around the idea of calling it a justice system, right? Because what justice embodies, it doesn't embody. And I know that some places have gone to legal system, but it actually being more of a term of art. But if we say, if we come with some phrase, that we want to call it, we could call it, whatever that is for both adults and youth or something like that, right? If we're clear about what we're talking about. But I do think that I would agree with the comments that, want to stay away from criminalizing youth and anything that might lean in that dynamic.
Yeah, you'll notice I took the term justice out of
Suspension of formal criminal proceedings.
language.
NRA.
So did you say by eliminating the criminal, and what if we went to the court system, that's not correct either, because that can include dependents?
Dependency court for juveniles.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else with any suggestions there?
I have a couple. So number one, organizationally, we tend to encourage people to refer to them as youth wholesale. As someone mentioned, the word juvenile, even if you take delinquency out, it still has sort of a negative connotation to it. So to the extent that that is important, and we think it is, we would encourage people to say youth. As far as the dependency court situation, I understand that in a theoretical sense. I'm curious if, and I mean, I think perhaps there could be a parenthetical phrase to clarify what we mean right after, say, youth court system or youth system, something like that. But because this entire, body of words is referring to diversion, and diversion does not, I mean, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if there are diversions for dependency or diversion for a youth being potentially placed outside the home. I don't know that there's a diversion program or there's a context for that to refer to dependency cases. But again, I wonder if that's something that we could clear up if we feel like it's necessary with a parenthetical phrase.
I think you're right, Chris. I don't think we need to worry about dependency. I think the fact that we're talking about diversion means by definition we're talking about the criminal side or the delinquency side and not the dependency side. And I agree we should change juvenile to youth. But I still don't know what phrase is the most. Do you have a thought, Chris, about what's criminal court system, legal court system, legal system?
What about just court system? Youth court system?
I mean, one of the things that we have talked about is how do we create shared language? And as Dante referred to the criminal legal system, that is a phrase that's starting to be used more and more, as well as changing juvenile to youth, as Chris stated. And so I think, even though, it may be other jurisdictions kind of using that language, the more of us that are using that language, it becomes more familiar and institutionalized. And so I think it would be important for us to kind of follow along with that.
So adult legal system and youth legal system? Or criminal legal system?
I thought we were getting away from the word criminal. Youth legal system and adult legal system? Is that where we're going?
Well,
I have a proposal potentially. What if this is your parenthetical, Chris? So what about diversion program? And this is, we'll probably need some wordsmithing, but something along these lines. I didn't even write it down. Diversion programs should be targeted as appropriate to provide alternatives to incarcerations to both youth and adults in the legal system, or something along those lines. But if we have incarceration in there, we know what we're talking about. I don't think I have the last piece cleared up necessarily, but something along those lines potentially. Public wordsmithing is hard.
Yeah, but I think that sounds good. I like what you did with it, Dante. I just think the question probably for Stephanie, and I don't know if we lost you for a second or you froze, was, were you advocating for the use of the term criminal legal system or legal system?
Legal system is fine. Also, I do like, and I feel like I'm trying to look at two different things right now, but the data-driven intervention, that part, I think it would be important for us to have that in there.
I think that's further down. Maybe the language can change, but the second to the last bullet point. Oh no, that's maintained data. I'm sorry.
Dinah has put an alternative definition in the chat. I don't know if everyone has seen that.
Oh no, okay, I haven't seen that. But going back to Stephanie's point, it does talk about data-driven in the first paragraph.
I'm agreeing with Stephanie's first thought, which was that we should have a succinct definition. That, like, this is what we think diversion is. And then we have all of these other ideals or goals, or if that makes sense.
And for the record, I think Donna put a gem in there, right? Which is, if you think about what I offered earlier, maybe it's as an alternative to incarceration and prosecution of juveniles or youth and adults. And we don't even have to talk about the court system, and that gets you all out of that mess, right? We're looking at alternatives to incarcerating people and prosecuting them, potentially.
I like Dinah's definition. Better than mine.
Okay, so if we're going back to looking at the definition first, before we address the bullet points, we had an initial one in our packet, and I think we've decided to move away from that. And then we had the one that Robin presented, which is at the top of the page. And then now we have the one that Dinah's presenting in the chat. Has everybody seen
Yeah,
that?
and it probably needs still some wordsmithing, because I was just trying to think in tight, just get one succinct statement about what we think it is. And then in a separate place, we could put all of these other goals or aspirations that we have for diversion.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion. So that if somebody wanted to know, well, what is diversion? They could go right there, and here is a succinct definition.
And I don't think the first one that's in our packet is totally thrown out the window, because I think there's pieces in each one of these that could be put together.
I agree.
All right, so it's just about a matter of us putting it together.
Is there a way that we can
wordsmith in the document?
Yeah, like go on to Word, take each paragraph from all of these, and then because it would be easier if I could just look at one screen, because I'm like back and forth right now.
Plus, once I open my chat, it blocks the other documents. So I can't really, I'd have to open another device to really be able to see.
Since we're all on here, do we want to type each one of them in the chat so we have it all right here in front of us and then kind of wordsmith from there? Because I don't, oh.
And Monica's gonna try to make it happen.
Monica.
The magic of Monica at work. All right.
All right, there we go. We have all three of them up there now.
Fabulous.
I'll give everybody an opportunity to look at the three of them now, and then we could talk about some wordsmithing.
I have a quick question. Dinah, by formal and informal practices, what are you thinking about with informal practices?
Well, there's a lot of times when cases, I'm thinking about when cases don't even come to my office. For example, there are programs, I think with the police department, Bisa, correct me if I'm wrong, you all have instances where you direct people into community-based programs, and you do not come into our office or into probation. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
So, and it could also be informal in the sense that even if it is in the court system, the stuff like lawmaker, like, we're going to just put this, they call it diversion, where we're just going to put this over 6 months. And if you don't get in any more trouble, then we'll dismiss the charges. I mean, so that I would call that informal, because the person isn't really doing a program. They're not really doing any services. Mm-hmm. But if they just, comply with obeying all laws, then 6 months from now that's why I use the word formal and informal, because it could have structure and then it may not.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So one comment I would have on Dinah, I'm just wondering whether the treatment or care defines all of the different things that someone can be asked to do in diversion.
Robin, I think that's where we can draw the language out of your first definition, because it is much more comprehensive. Like if we could take some of those lines, participate in services or sort of justice, whatever we decide it is. But I think we could fill that in a bit more with those specifics, and they actually are more accurate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if that piece is added into yours, just kind of expanding on treatment, and then you've captured it beautifully.
I agree. That not that I'm saying I captured it beautifully. I'm saying I think that piece would fit well, and it gives a much richer definition.
So Monica, are you on that?
If I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is, so in the second paragraph there, on the second sentence, there's a phrase that says into treatment or care, excuse me. And what you're suggesting is, instead of having the treatment or care, looking at the next paragraph and having that kind of that whole line that starts at, so into, and it would say supportive services, education, restorative justice programs, or other data-driven or innovative methods of rehabilitation.
So Dante, not to interrupt, but I'm going to interrupt because if you look in the chat, Melvin has already done it for us.
Yep, Melvin's done it.
Well, there you go.
Thank you, Melvin.
No, thank you guys. I was trying to type and do it while you guys were thinking about it, because it definitely makes sense to merge them together. That I think captures and has something for everybody on the group to really move forward.
Thank you.
But I think we still need to add back in the end of Dinah's
as an alternative phrase from there to the end?
Yes. Can you move Melvin's entire definition over to the document and then just add the very last piece of Dinah's onto it?
I think that's it. Only difference I see is the word "to" before supportive services. Melvin used the word "to." That's the only difference I see.
Got it. I think you got it.
I think I like the definition, but I think the only thing that it doesn't encompass is it really doesn't encompass some of those really informal referrals that are often made directly from law enforcement and into programs, because this talks about methods of rehabilitation. So, well, that's probably one, but I guess I was thinking about the Longacre too, where that's really not a method of rehabilitation at all. Just, you know, us saying like, hey, you've probably never been in any trouble before, and if you stay out of trouble, we'll just take this off your record. Sense.
I think this definition is broad enough to encompass Longacre diversion. That's just somebody being directed to stay out of trouble. I don't know.
Just to be clear, we're looking at the second paragraph, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill, because it's also an opportunity, right, for the individual. The opportunity, not all situations in the criminal justice system, you get an opportunity to have an alternative, situation or sentence. So that's the key too, is to highlight, the opportunity somehow too, that a person is being allowed to do something different than what the court would normally do, or I don't always think that folks look at the opportunity that's given to them through a diversion program as well. But that's just, I'm just talking.
Madam Chair, in the interest of time, the one thing I might offer is, continuing, and if maybe we get to what the definition is, instead of maybe going through all these subpoints, maybe that's where we can take the comments that were here, come back to this body to try to put together those subpoints based on what everyone has said, and then bring that back, and that would give people a time to look at them, kind of think of what they're missing, and then comments can be more targeted to those specific additional paragraphs versus trying to knock all of that out right now.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so we're still moving forward with figuring out at least the definition, so approving the definition and then looking at the subpoints later. Is that what I hear you saying, Dante?
That would be my recommendation.
I would further recommend that, if somebody's going to be playing around with this a little bit, that we make one caption that basically says diversion defined, and then we make another caption that says something like diversion goals or diversion should, something like that.
Recommended best practices.
Recommended best, oh, I love that. Okay, recommended best practices. That's good.
Are we all okay with the way that this second paragraph is now worded for our more general definition?
Yes, and I feel like I need to sit on it a little bit.
Ah, okay.
Let's make it a draft so we can do a little pondering.
I agree. Thank you.
Reality is, and I didn't mean to suggest, and the reason that I made the recommendation that I made, not necessarily to suggest that you have to agree on something today, but you could feel that that's where your energy is. And ultimately, when we bring it back, we'll be bringing that back too, and you might choose to hold your vote on everything at that time. But at least you could you feel a sense of sending us off with something potentially, right? Versus trying to spend your time on everything.
Okay, I think the second paragraph, which is the one that we're all looking at right now, I think most of us are feeling comfortable with it, but want to sit on it, and that's fine. So it doesn't sound like we're going to have a vote on that today. We could agendize it for the next meeting, and we can move forward. I guess I didn't open it up to discussion from the public, if there's any public comment on it. Anything other pressing about the definition before we move on? All right. Number 6 is discuss development of a list of local diversion options and the collection of data from programs included on this list. And that's the third attachment in our packet. And again, this is probably something that's been discussed on the last 2 meetings that I unfortunately missed. So if the vice chair wants to fill me in, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, what our discussion was is that we sort of went through these, this document that was put together by, I think, Monica, or maybe Dante and Chris and Monica, that from submissions by myself and probation, and I'm not sure if the district attorney submitted something for this original document, but I think the idea was, after our last meeting, was that there were some requests for additional information, and maybe Chris or Dante can speak to then what you've added to this document and where we go from here.
Yeah, so I think there were these 2 kind of joint conversations, and I apologize for kind of the dual agenda item there that speaks to the list and the data, but I think those conversations were, very merged in this, which was, on the one hand, trying to come up with a comprehensive list that touched all, or that included all of the opportunities for diversion throughout the county, and then at the same time, trying to go down a path of understanding what information was available, what information should you be requesting to get a better understanding of each of these potential opportunities. And so after the last meeting, I think there were a couple key things as to the list. One was that B.A. Becton, as she reviewed the list, recognized there were, either some things were saying it was only in one region, it was really county-wide, or there were other things that might have been missing. And so she provided some information that we updated the list with. And then we also heard from probation. There was a conversation about, what their thinking was when they submitted the list of different diversion things that they use for diversion. And what they explained was, for them, and it was specific for young people, when someone comes through their doors, This was really all under the kind of the auspice of informal probation. And so they might offer it. Because before, I think some of them were listed as community service. But what we try to do is make it more clear that by providing the direct header, informal probation, and then what types of things they might have and a plan for a young person to complete if they were put on informal probation, meaning they might go to have them do some type of education, or they might have community service at one of the places listed here, etc. We tried to update the list to more accurately capture that idea. The other piece of it was that, as we started to have that discussion, there was questions about, okay, so when diversion occurs, no matter whichever decision point, whether the DA is diverting or probation diverting or law enforcement is diverting, and you are presenting the diverted person with, or first, what is the process to determine who you're going to divert and who you're not? And so are there any policies or protocols that you have to kind of make that decision? And so at least for at the court level and then also at the probation level, the members said they'd be interested in seeing some of those policies and practices if they existed. We did receive some information from probation that we attached to this document. And so you'll see that after the list, what probation provided, and I would leave it to them to kind of explain what they provided. And then the last piece was around data collection. And I think that was the one conversation that was still in its infancy, which is why we kind of included it in this discussion, because I don't think we really formulated a lot of that discussion. The big takeaway was that probation did say that they would go back and speak with COPS and Start Smart, those two programs. And when they did go and speak to them, they told me, I think I might have forgot to include this piece in my the staff report, so I apologize. But what they heard from both programs was, they pretty much just have, we just have who you've sent here, kind of this is the number of people enrolled. They don't really keep statistics. They don't have that information, anything, any analytics or anything like that to provide. So, and that's kind of, I think, all that we went from that meeting to this meeting. So again, updating this list, trying to get a sense of understanding what processes were used when agencies are deciding who gets diverted, who doesn't, how that decision is made, and then also now wanting to, maybe dig into what information is wanted and how you might get it.
Dante, if I may, because we have seen a couple of versions of the list, but you said it was updated with some changes. If at all possible, if those changes are readily discernible to you, could you walk us through what is different this time from what we've seen?
Yeah, I thought about that when we were creating this. They should have been highlighted, but I can do that. For the young people, it was more of a consolidation. There wasn't any new information added in regards to this informal probation piece. I think that they were kind of listed maybe more independently, and we brought things kind of on, into the same bullet point. So like we did add the bullet point that says informal probation requirements may include the young person's completion of. Like that sentence is added, but then that's where we introduced the COPS and the Start Smart programs. And then this last sentence or last bullet point underneath those two that say other regional available classes, VORP, RISE, drug prevention, etc., could also be included because some of those were included in the regional ones and not necessarily in this particular one that was countywide. So that was a big change there. Then on the program with DA and RISE, previously this pre-charge restoration, let me make this like this is, okay, the page is, yeah. So page 22, I guess. Sorry that it double wrote on those two, on those next couple pages there, but page 22 of your packet is where pre-charge restorative justice diversion is listed. And this was updated with information that was provided to us by DA Beckton. So there was this category existed before, but we used what she provided, what was provided before, to kind of consolidate into these 3 bullet points here. And I think that was all. The other change that was made was looking at page, I said 20, I meant to say that last one was actually on page 9, and this change is on page 12. There was conversation around AB 1810, including that. And so, so we added a quick synopsis of AB 1810 on page 12 of 21. And that was.
Can I just jump in here while you're on that and say that actually the mental health diversion description that's on the next page is the definition of AB 1810. So maybe those two pieces can be combined, but that was already included.
Understood. We can do that. So should we just get rid of the new one, or get rid of the, or replace the old one with the new one? What would you recommend, Robin?
Well, I mean, what's added here is I don't know what to say about that. I think the bullet points under mental health diversion is AB 1810, and that already lists sort of what the components of mental health diversion are. So I don't know whether we need what was added, or you want to just put that paragraph at the heading at the beginning of the mental health diversion section. That would probably work.
All right, so we'll combine them and see what's there and make sure everything gets into a new one, a new mental health diversion category. That's fine. Oh, there was one more change I forgot. On page 14, we did add the last 2 bullet points under pre-filing diversion and misdemeanor that was provided to us from DA Beckton related to corrective solutions and neighborhood courts. I think previously there was a bullet point about the now defunct community courts that was removed, and these were included.
I was wondering if it would make sense to, let's see, I know we identify everything that exists, but for a lot of these things, we can't tell where to go or how to get them. So most of them, some of them tell us where they originate, but many of them don't. Like, for example, where it talks in the one you were just referencing, the misdemeanor arena. These are, except for the LEAD program, the corrective solutions is one that comes out of the DA's office as well as the neighborhood courts. I'm not so sure. And I don't know if I would label them necessarily misdemeanor. I think the corrective solutions definitely is one that would be labeled that way, but neighborhood courts could have a little more flexibility. But it doesn't identify the fact that these, you have to go through the DA's office to get these. And there are lots of places where that's true. Like where under Central County Services. Oh, well, that one talks, those identify where you go or who runs those programs.
All right, so at this point, I'm not sure where we go. Are we still talking about gathering additional and what additional information we need to complete our list?
My sense is that at this point, we have captured what's out there, and the focus maybe should be on, as Dinah was just saying, refining information about where these different things live. I mean, how you get, how an individual finds their way into, you know, what point in the decision-making process do they land in one of these places? And then also, I think it would be really helpful to get, to the extent we can, additional policies or protocols or procedures from each of these different things. If they exist. For example, Dinah, I don't know if you have something about the district attorney approved diversion process and whether you, I know the last thing I saw from your office was from 2005, I think, about how you review cases for diversion. So I don't know if there's an update on that point.
Sure. Which one was that, Robin? I'm sorry. I didn't.
Oh, the district attorney diversion. District attorney approved misdemeanor penal code section 1001.
Oh.
That whole.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, we probably need to update that.
Okay, so what I heard is we need to actually just expand what we already have in terms of gathering information, entry points,
and process, like, you know, for the community, community accountability program, the corrective solutions. I know they have a whole description of their program and what their protocols are and what's required to complete their program. So I think, you know, getting the underlying documentation and protocols from these different things would be really helpful.
Hi, Chris, go ahead.
I was just waving to Stephanie because I read her message in the chat. She had to go at 4. So I was just waving before she
okay, thanks.
But I would agree with essentially what she put in the chat before taking off, right? We mentioned criteria for entering a program, finding out what data is being collected and evaluated, et cetera. That's along the lines of everything that you just said. I have a question that will probably come up a little bit later. We got some updates from probation in terms of some of this stuff, and they're here, you know, so they're available to tell us about what they have and what they've come up with. And I think I heard from Dante that, you know, and reaching out to a couple of the programs that they may refer you to, that they're not really collecting data, that they have, you know, that they haven't really done anything along that line. And I'm curious if it might be helpful to fashion a template, like an Excel sheet, and say, can you get these things, you know, in terms of, or collect these things when you get referrals, so that going forward, you get that information so that we can, you know, sort of keep an eye on who's getting the opportunity, as was mentioned before, right, for a diversion as opposed to you know, a more punitive disposition.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that maybe one of the things that we come up with is what we actually want to be collected moving forward. And so it's something that we could provide to some of these service providers so that we're collecting the relevant data that's going to help inform.
Yeah, to the extent that they're open to it. You know, for the folks who have those direct lines of communication, and wondering if people feel like that's something they could do, particularly if that stuff's kind of laid out and all you have to, theoretically, right, on the outside looking in, all you might have to do is, you know, take whatever document is referring this person and sort of, you know, go down the list and sort of enter a little information. Not that that's not a tedious job that takes some time, and that, you know, we get all that, but you know, just finding out if there's capacity, if people are open to, or these agencies are even open to doing something of that nature, and maybe presenting them with some options.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, just a couple comments from kind of the ORJ's perspective. You know, one thing in thinking about just kind of for us as we're trying to put the information together and be clear and have it presented in a way that can be kind of understood, it would be important for us to kind of distinguish between system actors and policies in terms of making diversion and a particular like programs rules. I think those are two different things necessarily. And so you know, as we presented this, we want to be clear between those. You know, so you know, who can make diversion, how that diversion occurs, separate from where are people diverted to, and what does that look like. And then the second thing I would say is that this is a long list, and we would definitely, ORJ would need to lean upon the membership in terms of collecting all of those that information from these various options, diversion options. So not sure exactly how that might look, but you know, I know that we also don't necessarily have relationships or knowledge of many of these options. So I would just want to have that information considered as well.
All right, so there's additional work to be done. There's a few things. So one was creating, you know, something that we can provide to some of these service providers so that we could collect additional data. Two, we need to be looking at how diversion, how people are entering these programs. And I think that that's more of the work that we probably need to focus on first. And with this list, which is long, it probably needs to be broken up. And so maybe we should go through the list, and the people that maybe have connections to the programs will hopefully volunteer to collect that additional information. Does that sound like a plan? All right. If we start, let's see, so on the page, what says 9 of 21, the countywide services. Starts off with probation. So somebody from probation have the information for these particular ones?
Yeah, I mean, it's so on page 9 of 21, I mean, that's really just places where we would refer youth for community service. So it's not necessary. I'm not, okay. So maybe I'm not understanding the ask. I get with COPS and maybe Start Smart, which is our two programs, but getting the ask on, what am I asking juvenile hall auxiliary? So we get a case that comes in and say, you know, it's for, I don't know, vandalism. And we're like, hey, we want you to go to juvenile hall auxiliary and do 2 hours of community service. So are we saying we want juvenile hall auxiliary then to track all the demographics of the kid who went over for those 2 hours? Like, what are we?
So I think there's two different things that we're asking. One, yeah, there's some information that we'll develop that we do want to ask about the diversion. But before that, I think that one of the things that we're asking is, how do we determine who's going where? What's that entry point? Like, who gets the diversion? Am I correct, or do I have this wrong? So I think the first question, and maybe that's to probation as opposed to the actual the actual agency that's, you know, helping with the diversion, that maybe for probation is providing the information on how you guys determine who gets to go where. Yeah,
and I would just say I think they have done it. We just haven't given them the floor really yet to talk about it, but they sort of outlined some things toward the end of the packet about you know, how they go about making those decisions.
Yeah, so we've attached what our policy is when we get out of custody referrals. That usually, you know, the police make the arrest. If it's a misdemeanor and they send it over to probation, we have a guideline of what we actually look at to determine on if we're going to do informal probation to prevent the person from getting deeper into the system. And so on the last page, 21 to 21, I mean, that really talks about the eligibility factors, who's not eligible. So when we actually do our packet that we send over to the DA, you know, if they're not eligible, we would check off one of these boxes, write up a narrative that then goes over to the district attorney's office of saying, hey, this person isn't eligible for informal for whatever reason. We're requesting that a petition be filed. Then it's up to the DA to determine on, hey, yes, we're going to file a petition, or no, we're going to send it back to you. We want you to close it out. And so this just really outlines what we do in terms of defining eligibility. And if they are then eligible, then you take a look at that list on either 9, that starts on 9 or 21. And then you start asking the question of, hey, where could this person benefit? Or it may just be something where we're asking the kid, hey, why don't you write a 500 thing essay of saying, hey, this was wrong or whatever, right? And then they do it and then we close it out.
Okay, so it looks like we have that for probation, and I think that's what.
Lisa has a Zoom bomber.
Yeah, I see.
That's the birthday boy.
Introduce your Zoom bomber.
Say hi, this is my son. What's your name? Heath. All right.
Happy birthday to you, sir.
Happy birthday.
Hey.
Happy birthday.
Do we need to sing?
No.
No, it's okay.
Earlier, so.
It hurt my ears.
All right. So it sounds like we have that information from probation. I'm not sure that we have that same information from all of the other entry points. And so I think that's the information that we're looking to collect. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but that's my understanding. Okay, so probation has provided that. I think the next one is probably the DA's office with the pre-charge restorative justice diversion program. Was that yours, Dinah? Judge Beckton?
Yes, excuse me.
Okay.
So
sorry,
we have the criteria. We can do that. And for all of ours, we have some criteria, so we can do that. One thing I was thinking, because we do have a long list of options here, and they're really kind of, I was wondering if we could categorize them by, you know, like where they belong, like probation-led programs, law enforcement diversion programs, court
Like by
programs.
decision point, Your Honor? Is that what you're thinking? Thinking the decision point? The decision point in the system? Is that what you're thinking?
Or whoever runs the program, like when it talks about, like there's things here that say countywide services, and it sounds like those all come out of probation. So those would be probation run programs. And then there's some that, especially the ones with the penal code sections attached to them, a lot of those are court authorized programs. And then there's the ones that are the DA's office, and then some that are led by law enforcement. And so I think those four encompass probably most of what we have here and might help organization and help us understand where to go get the information as well. It's just a suggestion.
I like that suggestion. I think we gathered a bunch of stuff together, and now we need to kind of structure it a little bit. And I think that's a really great way to structure it. You know, and I think there's some, I'm going back to Melvin's, the very first part about the list of places where a kid might get referred to do community service. Like, I think you could just clarify that one bullet point, first bullet point, to say that informal probation could include a referral to do community service somewhere. You don't really need to list out the different places where they do the community service, right?
I think what the blank bullet was supposed to say is that these are the community service options.
Right.
The Wiener's error.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be helpful. And yeah, it's fine to include the options, but I think some clarification about, because it does read like those different places have diversion programs, which of course they don't. So that'll be helpful. Sorry, I interrupted whoever was.
I don't think was there somebody else that was speaking before that?
I think I interrupted the flow of what you were doing, Lisa. I apologize.
No, it's okay. So yeah, so we need to separate them out. And then, but there is additional information that we need to capture. The DA said that they have all of the criteria for their programs. I don't know where VORP comes from. I'm not sure what that is. Anybody? The Victim Offender Reconciliation Program, is that something under?
Probation refers kids to VORP.
Okay, so it's the same criteria that you've already provided?
Yes.
Okay.
Melvin, is that like a nonprofit, or I don't know who runs VORP?
Ed, do you want to take that?
Yeah, the Congress of Neutrals. I don't know if you guys, somebody in the last meeting was familiar. They asked that question. So they run that.
Okay. So so some more information on their program and who they are would be helpful.
So again, if we're talking about breaking things up to like probation instead of, I guess, areas, because we broke it down to county-wide services. And like Dinah said, it makes more sense to break them down to from where the actual entry points are. Our diversion program, we have a criteria, so I will get that and provide that to the group. And same with the diversion program that we do in conjunction with RISE. So I'll provide that information. There's some parent education programs out of county. Is that probation? Is that, I'm not sure where that comes from. Page 12 of 21. Anyone?
I wonder if Lynn or the Department of Ed offered that up.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll skip that one for now.
What was the page number? I'm sorry, I missed it.
It was page 12 of 21. It's the top one, the Parent Education Department, Mount Diablo Adult Education. All right. And then COPE, Family Support System. Okay. I will commit to getting the information for those two. And then in East County, the Victim Offender Reconciliation, oh, that's VORP again. So that's again through the probation, I'm assuming. And then countywide, the pretrial felony mental health diversion. Somebody have the entry for that?
That's the court.
Somebody want to commit to getting the information on how decisions are made there? No.
I can take that on, although the problem is I don't know that there is anything more than what we have already. So it's really in the formative stage at this point. So I think the program is in the process of writing things up and getting their protocols down, but that's a court-run program. Unless Dinah, do you have any other thoughts on that? So I think Dinah and both of our offices are very involved in that process. So when things develop, we can bring them back to this committee.
Okay, thank you. The Penal Code 1000 for drug offenses, is that the same, or, I mean, in the same boat, or is that something completely different?
Robin, I'm not even sure. Is that used anymore? It is.
Robin, you're muted.
Sorry,
Oh.
it's available. It is not used very much because Prop 36 has really overtaken it. And actually, we don't have Prop 36 on here, do we? I will look into cleaning up that piece and figuring out what the process is right now for drug diversion.
That include Prop 36 in your inquiry, Robin?
Say again?
I said, are you including Prop 36 as part of what you're going to look into?
Uh-huh.
All right.
Okay, the next one is a district attorney led one that she's already said that she will bring back. Long acre diversion, anybody familiar?
That's not something that there's nothing in writing about long acre diversion. It's just an informal practice that's been in operation for decades. And it really just means you kick a case down the road and the DA agrees to a dismissal or the court agrees to a dismissal within X number of months if there has not been any new offenses.
So there's not a criteria for choosing which cases get that?
Nope. It's all done through negotiations in the pre-trial stages of litigation.
Okay, military diversion?
I can do that one.
But is that supposed to be the veterans? Or is that something else?
Yeah,
They're different, Your Honor. There was the Veterans Court that was in addition to this, and I think like similar staff handled both, but then there's also military diversion specifically.
Oh, well, I'm not sure I saw the Veterans Court listed separately. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's over. I think they ended on a couple months ago, and as I understood, it was gone for now at least.
The Veterans Court? I didn't hear that one.
No, Veterans Court is, I think what
They're still
Veterans
running.
Court oversees people who have been granted military diversion, I think is how, or is it different, Dinah?
No, I was just trying to clarify that they were one and the same. Yeah, because this one said, oh no, I didn't see minutes.
So this set of bullet points about military diversion,
that's right.
Came from me, and it came from my attorney that staffs the Veterans Court calendar. So I think they are one and the same.
I think the description sounds like the same. Yeah.
And I actually have all the information for that, and so I think our office could probably provide what we have related to that court.
Okay, great.
Okay, mental health diversion?
It's the same as what we talked about a minute ago.
Okay. And behavioral health court, same?
No, behavioral health court is different.
Anybody have ties to get the information from there?
I don't, they have some guidelines. No, if it's very specific though, I can get it. Oh yeah, well, let's both get what we have, but.
Yeah.
All right, pre-filing diversion in the misdemeanor arena. So there's one through Antioch PD.
I think we can save our time on that because it's gone.
Yeah, I think you could take that off because the funding was lost.
Okay. Corrective Solutions Community Accountability Program.
That's DA.
That's the
We have the criteria.
All right. Neighborhood courts. We don't have neighborhood courts anymore, right?
No, we're still trying to hire up for them. We have the funding and the approval.
Okay. So that's,
we just haven't been able to implement them yet. Took a long time to get the staffing approved and everything. And now with the hiring freeze, I don't know. But I think the county allowed us to go forward with the hiring.
okay.
And to staff that one up.
Statutory diversion provisions. Are all of these through the courts, the penal code ones?
These are things that are in the penal code as diversion programs that can be used by a county that we are not currently using. So there is no.
Okay, so no criteria.
Right, unless Dinah, are any, am I wrong on any of those?
Well, the DA's office does have, it's on our website about bag check diversion, but all of the other ones are ones I think that require the court's approval and we don't have.
Okay, that's the list that we have right now. I think for the ones that we don't have the information on, several of us have homework to get that. And we will. And so.
Madam Chair, can I ask a clarifying question, please?
Yes.
On that last section there, other than the bad check diversion, I was just wanting to just be clear about why they're not currently used. And it sounded like DA Beckton was saying that, you know, they require the court to, and the court has, and this is where the clarity is. I mean, do they just not entertain this, or is there some type of explicit, yeah, we're not doing this here?
The only one I can definitely speak to right now would be the first one, the primary caregiver. The relatively new law, I think 2018 or 19, it does require the court to lead out. And we did ask the court to set up a meeting so that we could at least discuss it. Robin and I have kind of jointly made that request. Initially, it was not so well received, but then I think what happened is with COVID, it sort of just got pushed all the way on the back burner. So I don't know where it is now, but neither of our offices can implement the program. It has to be done through the courts. I don't know what the status is of the others.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dante, I will take on doing some more research into those different statutory provisions to see what would be required to get them utilized in our county.
Thank you, Robin.
All right, so that was one component of what we earlier discussed, was to get the additional information. The second component was actually the information that we want to receive from these different diversion programs, and can we agendize that for our next meeting, perhaps, to talk about that criteria we may want to collect, or for a future meeting? Anyone? I see one head nod, so I'm going with it.
I'm saying yes because I think Stephanie is important to that discussion, and she's not with us today.
I agree. All right. Okay, so is there anything else on the discussion of development of list of diversion options and collections, or are we on to the next steps? Hearing nothing, I think we're on to next steps.
Madam Chair, you might want to at least ask for public comment. Not sure if there is public comment, but see if there is any on this item.
Thank you. Is there any public comment for item number 6 that we just discussed? All right, hearing none. I think we've already kind of talked about next steps is coming back with information, making sure that we have all the relevant information that we're looking for. That's 1. 2 is developing what criteria we want to collect moving forward. Is there something else that I've already forgot from the beginning of the meeting?
The whole long diversion definition discussion.
Oh,
So
the version, yes, that definitely needs to be on. I think a month is enough for time for us to sit and chew on it, and then we have to talk about the bullet points that go with that.
yeah, so what we'll do is we'll reach out to Burns again and just kind of compare notes and well, maybe even I'll say Christopher James specifically, and compare notes and try to put together something that captures exactly what you this body has envisioned, something with some headers and separating the short definition from the longer set of principles that options should include. So,
All right.
Jill has her hand up in the chat.
Oh, okay, Jill.
I don't have anything for the next steps, but I was late coming into this meeting because I was in another meeting and I missed public comments. So I'm going to take this opportunity to tell everybody to go out and get your COVID test. We can't change levels at the county level unless we increase our testing. And so it is free to everybody. If you have a private healthcare provider, you've likely been told no, but you can go to a county or state site. You can schedule it online, and the county health officers are recommending monthly screenings. Unless you are working with a vulnerable population, then you should be getting tested every couple of weeks. So spread the word. If we want to get our county opened up further, then we need to increase our testing. Thank you.
Thank you. I think most of you know that I wasn't at the last meeting because we had one of our sergeants passed away from COVID that day. And it's really been a difficult situation to have an employee succumb to the illness. So I've gotten tested numerous times, and I will continue to throughout this, and I hope you guys will too. All right, so the next thing is to adjourn to the next subcommittee meeting, which is on October 15th, unless there's anything else. Anybody want to add anything?
Lots of homework. Lots of homework. I believe in everyone who, agreed to do something to get it done between now and October 15th. I'm looking forward to advancing the conversation from there.
I think it needs to get done before October 15th because it probably needs to be included in the packet. So I'm sure Monica will want that information sooner than that. At least
better.
Yes.
Daryl, I hope you get your voice back by our next meeting.
It will soon.
All right. Thank you, guys. We're able to end early, but thank you. I think we're thanks.
4:32. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.